Okay, so here it goes. Um, it was placed on my heart to do this, so I'm gonna be obedient and do this. But this morning, God pretty much came to me and said, "You know what? You need to tell your story about how and when you found me." I've been running through this in my head for, at least 2 hours, and now that I'm actually saying it out loud, it's like, whew, am I really doing this? But here it is, raw and unfiltered, as you may see. My eyebrows need to seriously be done, but who cares? So, um, okay. So I am married. I do have two beautiful children, but in between those children, I suffered from a miscarriage. And I can't really say suffered because, you know, the life was never really viable. So, but there's still a connection. And I'll take you back into time. It was 1999. Okay, that's my coping mechanism. So, um, 3 years ago, yeah, 3 years ago, um, we had a awesome opportunity to move from Miami to Dallas. And, leading up, I finally got that full time position that I really wanted. Um, my husband was finally thriving with a company that valued him. And, we were just living life in Miami. So, everything was good. But like a week or so before we left, I wasn't feeling good. And I decided that, listening to a friend, I went on ahead 2 days before we were supposed to leave. And I went on ahead and took a pregnancy test. And so I found out that I was pregnant. News that I wasn't really excited for. And after telling my husband he wasn't excited for it at all, um, because we both go monetary, like immediately. Like, can we even afford this? Is this what's really happening? Um, who's gonna, like what's gonna happen? We're going to a new city with a 3 year old, and we're about to have a child. Like, not sure about this one, God. So, I went through, that whole mental process. And then we finally just said, you know what, it is what it is. So as soon as we got to Dallas, we had to find a doctor. So I went and found a doctor, you know, and I just never felt good about it. And, if you don't know, I'm giving you, Oprah Super Soul Sunday outside. Not really. I'm on my Target furniture, sitting on my deck, nowhere near Oprah status. But we were able to, find a doctor, and it still just didn't seem right. I didn't feel the same way I did with my son when I was pregnant with him, and I know every pregnancy is different, but this was completely different. Like, I didn't have that euphoric sense. I didn't have that get up and go. I didn't have any of the same things that I had with my son. Like, I with my son, when I was pregnant with him, I did not want to eat. Like, people had to beg me to eat. Um, and I was satisfied with a fruit bowl and a slushy. Like, that's all I cared about. And I ended up losing like 18 pounds in my first trimester. So, this one, I was eating everything and nothing could satisfy my appetite. Like, I was literally like gulping down stuff like crazy. Um, so then I realized that something wasn't right. And on my next appointment, which was like a month later, they did a sonogram. They checked me out. They were just like, something just doesn't look right. Something doesn't seem right. So come back next week. And I was like, okay, whatever. So they did another sonogram the next week. And, the baby that should have been that should have been 10 weeks was only the size of a 6-week-old. So I was just like, so what are you saying? Like, I'm that direct, like, give it to me plain and I'll figure it all out later. So then she called the doctor in and she was just like, well, this is going to end up in a miscarriage. And whether, it happens manually, like it's just does it its own thing, or if you say, hey, let me just take a pill and be done with it. And probably it was about a year, a little bit, no, 2 years, I had an abortion. It was a baby, once again, me and my husband did not want. So we decided to take care of that issue ourselves. And so after all of that time, I just knew, God was punishing me in some kind of way for getting rid of that life. So, I was like, no, I'll let its course happen. Whatever happens, happens. And, like a week later, thankfully, me transferring my job paperwork got lost or something happened, and, my start date got pushed back. And luckily it happened because the day before I was supposed to start, I actually was when the process of the miscarriage actually happened. So I was given a whole week to, get through all of that stuff, which, God's timing is always crazy but great at the same time. So that's when I actually, had my coming to Jesus moment. And, I never knew what that meant, what it looked like, what it felt like. But I realized that it's different for everyone. So, I went through the whole soul searching. I went through, do I find it in church? Do I find it in family? Where do I go from here? And I realized that, religion was not going to work for me. I knew that rules weren't going to work for me. I knew I had to find them on my own terms and in my own way. So, I started journaling. I started, looking at different shows and how other people find God, and, hope that I could find him, in my own way, the same way they did. And that's exactly what I did. I found him on my terms and in my own way. And that just made it all the better. It was so much more authentic. It was so much more, real to me, instead of, hey, this is how you find them. Read the Bible, read this verse, and you'll feel good. No, that doesn't work for me. I wanted a deeper connection, and that's exactly what he gave me. And the process took about, a month and a half. And, I went into Christmas time not even thinking about it. Mind you, Thanksgiving was super duper rough. But in weeks, it wasn't even a thought. And then the next month, I ended up getting pregnant again because, I was focused on bettering myself and finding out, finding a way, finding a better, me. And so, I ended up being pregnant with Denver, and I went through, and it was what I expected my pregnancy to be, just like how it was when I was pregnant with Dill. And it was beautiful. But in that process, me and my husband joke all the time that baby saw us and just said, oh God, Did I really just choose them? Like, God, can I get a redo and like hit the reset button and flushed itself like back to, the soul universe and was like, nope, that's not the one for me. And Denver, like, after all the souls were looking down, Denver just said, I'll take one for the team. And I promise you, she looks at us like that sometimes. Like, I'm taking this for the team, and I hope you guys know that. But at the same time, that pregnancy was what God needed for me to have and go through. Not necessarily to break me, but to get rid of everything that wasn't Him. Everything that wasn't focused on Him. Everything that, didn't serve His purpose. And at that time, He fleshed me clean and gave me a baby girl that, I didn't even think I wanted girls. I was like, no, boys, because I know how girls are. And she's proving to be just that, but she is my love. And, just going through it, and I don't even think about it. Like, now, I can say that I had a miscarriage and it doesn't, like, faze me. But to go through the story and think about what it actually means and the journey and the process that I actually went through is what is the beautiful love story that He has for me, that He has for my family, and that He has for everyone. And that was the time that I actually, that was when I found God, was in that moment, was in the moment of God necessarily, purifying me, getting rid of all of that, the wild, fast life that I thought was, hey, I'm living, when I'm really not. And He gave me what living truly is, which is peace, contentment, just love, and abundance. And it's not like, hey, I'm better than you, hey, I see these things that you don't, and you know what, whenever you find it, you find it. While that's true, when you find it, it's not the way you want it to be. When you find God, it's not on, the happy-go-lucky terms. And it finally clicked this morning that while I feel like my story isn't like some grand thing, it's pretty awesome in the way that He will transform your life, the way He will strip you bare of everything that every way that you feel like you should have things, every way that you decide to write your life. It's not your story to be written, it's His. And we just have to be okay with the journey. And even if we're not, we're still going to go through that journey. And the breaking point can be as long as you have it to be, however long it takes you to learn your story. And that's the beautiful thing, is that we all have to learn our story. We all have to take this journey. And when He strips you bare and you realize what really matters, it's crazy, but crazy in a good way. Like, me and my husband's eyes are wide open for this journey, and the things that we now recognize and we now realize, we probably would have looked at 2-3 years ago like, okay, whatever. Like, okay, whatever you say. We wouldn't have taken it serious. We wouldn't have, believe that anything is possible. We were running a rat race, and now we're just running towards God. What is our purpose? It's to help people. It's to make lives better. It's to show people a better way. It's to open their eyes to there's so much more out there. Travel, see the world, learn new things, eat new things, try new things. Because to stay in a bubble it kills you. To stay in that bubble will lead you nowhere. You will be a hamster in a bubble, or like the boy in the bubble who has never experienced life. So what if you get sick? Did you have fun in the process? So what if your clothes are wet? Did you dance in the rain? I hope, this story is super basic. This story is nothing but my story that I decided to tell. But it is my story of how I met God and truly met God. And I hope you guys were inspired by it. Sorry for the tears. And I love you.